The internet just stopped breathing. Because when Jaguar Wright went live and said, "This wasn't random," she didn't whisper it. She detonated it. What she claims happened behind the scenes isn't a misunderstanding. It isn't messy coincidence. It isn't celebrity drama. According to her, it was engineered, calculated, designed. And if even half of what she's implying is true, then what we watched unfold wasn't chaos. It was choreography. For months, fans thought this was another unpredictable Hollywood unraveling. A romance that bloomed too fast. A divorce that exploded too publicly. A series of viral moments that felt spontaneous and raw. Jaguar says none of it was spontaneous. She says it was structured, and that word alone has people spiraling. Because when you start looking back at the timeline, the sudden appearances, the suspiciously perfect photo drops, the emotional interviews that hit at just the right time, things start to feel rehearsed. She didn't name villains. She didn't drop a single signed contract. But she hinted at something darker. Public narratives built to distract from private realities. She questioned the timing of certain relationship reveals. She pointed out how scandals seemed to overlap conveniently with career pivots. She implied that someone needed a reset, and someone else needed a spotlight. And then she said the one thing that set social media on fire. This wasn't love, this was positioning. Within minutes, Twitter split in half. Some called her unhinged. Others called her the only one brave enough to say what everyone else is afraid to touch. Because here's what makes this different. Jaguar isn't an outsider guessing. She's someone who's been in rooms most people only read about. And when she says she's seen this formula before, when she claims relationships in this industry sometimes operate like PR campaigns with expiration dates, people listen. She didn't promise receipts. She promised patterns. And patterns are dangerous when they start lining up. So now the question isn't whether a breakup happened. The question is whether the entire storyline was manufactured from the beginning. And if that's true, then the biggest twist hasn't even been revealed yet. The live didn't start like a bombshell. It started like a warning. Jaguar Wright looked straight into the camera and said she had stayed quiet long enough. She said she was tired of watching the public swallow narratives that were packaged, polished, and pushed like premium content. And then she leaned forward and made it clear. What people thought was random wasn't. Within seconds, the comment section exploded. Because Jaguar didn't just question a relationship, she questioned the architecture behind it. She claimed the romance everyone celebrated was rolled out with timing too perfect to be organic. She said the first public appearance didn't feel accidental. It felt coordinated. She pointed out how the announcement conveniently followed a wave of uncomfortable headlines that needed to disappear. She asked why the narrative shifted overnight from scandal to soulmate. And that's when the timeline detectives went to work. Screenshots resurfaced. Old interviews were clipped and replayed. Fans started lining up dates and realizing that the soft launch happened suspiciously close to a career pivot. Jaguar didn't provide paperwork. She provided context. She asked why two people who had allegedly moved in completely different circles suddenly aligned at the exact moment both of their public images needed stabilization. She said in this industry, love is often a storyline. And storylines have arcs. There's a build-up, there's a climax, there's a controlled ending. She alleged that what the public saw was Act 2 of something far more calculated, that the chemistry might have been real but the timing wasn't. That private conversations about optics may have happened before private conversations about feelings. The chat went feral. Some viewers accused her of tearing down happiness. Others begged her to say the names, but Jaguar didn't have to. The internet had already filled in the blanks. The speculation alone was enough to ignite a digital wildfire. Then she dropped another layer. She claimed that certain photos weren't candid. She said they were staged to reframe perception. She pointed out how specific angles, specific body language, specific captions appeared crafted to communicate unity and passion at a time when separation and doubt were trending. She didn't call anyone a liar. She called it brand management. And suddenly, what once looked like romance started looking like strategy. Fans began rewatching viral clips with a new lens. A forehead kiss that once felt intimate now felt deliberate. A red carpet laugh that seemed effortless now looked rehearsed. Even the silence between interviews felt intentional, like pauses in a script. Jaguar said something that froze the room. When you need the world to believe you're healed, you show them a love story. That line traveled across platforms in minutes because healing narratives sell, redemption arcs trend, and nothing distracts like a new romance glowing under camera flashes. She claimed that someone needed protection from scrutiny, that someone else needed elevation. And when those needs intersected, the solution wasn't fate. It was collaboration. Allegedly. She stressed that word repeatedly. Allegedly. Because she knows how this game works. She knows how quickly statements can turn into lawsuits. But she also knows how patterns can scream without hard evidence. And then she brought up contracts. Not romantic contracts. Professional ones. She asked viewers if they truly believe celebrity relationships exist outside of negotiation when millions of dollars and brand endorsements are involved. She questioned whether morality clauses, image clauses, and partnership optics ever bleed into personal decisions. The comment section split violently. Half the audience said she was exposing the machine. The other half said she was bitter. But nobody clicked away. Because Jaguar wasn't yelling. She was methodical. She broke down how public sympathy works, how fan loyalty can be redirected, how controversy can be buried under curated affection. She claimed that in moments of chaos, teams look for distraction, and nothing shifts a narrative faster than love. Then she referenced past industry examples without naming them directly, relationships that appeared during scandals. Breakups that happened immediately after contracts ended, couples that quietly vanished once press cycles cooled. She asked one chilling question: why do some romances expire exactly when headlines do? Silence flooded the live chat for a split second before chaos resumed. Screenshots of the broadcast circulated with captions like, "She's saying what nobody else will." Others clipped 10-second snippets, stripped of context, and labeled her unstable. But even critics couldn't ignore how cleanly the timeline she described aligned with public events. She said she wasn't attacking love. She was attacking illusion. She claimed the audience deserves transparency when emotions are monetized. That fans invest not just views, but belief. And belief, she argued, should not be exploited for narrative control. At one point, her voice cracked slightly. Not in anger, in frustration. She said she's watched too many people get used as shields, too many stories get spun, too many audiences manipulated into defending setups they never agreed to participate in. She implied that one party may have thought the arrangement was temporary, that another may have developed real feelings inside something that started strategic. And if that's true, she suggested, the emotional fallout would be far worse than any headline. That's when social media detonated again. Because now this wasn't about PR. It was about potential heartbreak layered inside business. Clips of Jaguar's lives started trending alongside throwback romantic posts. Fans were dissecting micro-expressions in old interviews. Influencers began hosting emergency livestream panels debating whether chemistry can coexist with calculation. Meanwhile, none of the alleged parties responded. Not a tweet. Not a denial. Just silence. And silence, in moments like this, becomes its own statement. Jaguar ended that segment of the live with a sentence that landed like a final gavel. Some stories are written for you. Some are lived. Learn the difference. Then she paused, looked into the camera, and said the part she had been building toward. This wasn't random, and the next reveal will make that clear. She didn't elaborate. She didn't drop names. She ended the live, which was somehow louder than continuing. Within hours, blogs were scrambling. Reaction videos flooded YouTube. Think pieces emerged debating whether the public is complicit in consuming manufactured romance. Others accused Jaguar of stirring chaos without proof. But one thing was undeniable. The narrative shifted. What once felt like a fairy tale now carried an asterisk. And if Jaguar truly has more to say, if there are private messages, insider accounts, or behind-the-scenes confirmations waiting to surface, then this isn't just gossip, it's escalation. And according to her final words before logging off, the next layer won't be subtle. The next time Jaguar Wright went live, she didn't waste a single second warming up. She came back with specifics. Not names shouted in rage. Not chaotic rambling. Specifics. She said the first live was the appetizer. What she was about to unpack now was context. She claimed people kept asking for receipts, but the real receipt, according to her, was the sequence of events. And she started laying them out. She pointed to the exact week headlines shifted from messy legal filings and uncomfortable rumors to glossy couple photos splashed across entertainment blogs. She asked why that pivot happened so cleanly. She questioned why paparazzi suddenly just happened to be at private dinners that were supposedly low-key. Then she said something that made the chat freeze. Those weren't leaks. Those were placements. That single word changed the temperature. Placements. She alleged that when certain narratives start trending in the wrong direction, teams activate contingency plans. She claimed she's seen it before: the emergency romance rollout, the coordinated captions, the exclusive interviews with soft questions and glowing language. And she insisted that when the public sees a surprise couple reveal, it's rarely a surprise to the people managing the brands. Within minutes, fans were comparing timestamps again. Someone pulled archived screenshots showing that the first romantic rumor dropped within 48 hours of a particularly damaging blog post. Others noticed that a magazine cover featuring the pair had clearly been shot weeks earlier, contradicting the "we just fell in love" storyline. Jaguar didn't say she had sat in on meetings, she said she recognized the choreography. And then she pivoted to something heavier. She claimed that the emotional breakdowns the public saw online weren't always spontaneous. She alleged that at least one livestream meltdown was strategically ambiguous, not fake, but leveraged. She argued that vulnerability can be genuine and still be used as narrative fuel. That part split the audience again. Some accused her of diminishing real feelings. Others said she was exposing how pain can be commodified. Then she dropped the bombshell that sent Twitter into cardiac arrest. She claimed she received messages from someone close to the situation, not screenshots she could post, but voice notes she described in detail. She said the insider told her there were early conversations about stabilizing optics. That phrase echoed through the chat like thunder. Stabilizing optics. She alleged that one party feared being perceived as chaotic post-divorce, while the other needed mainstream elevation beyond niche acclaim. According to Jaguar, the solution was alignment. She described the alleged voice note as nervous. She said the source admitted they initially thought it was harmless, just mutual support, just good publicity. But over time, feelings blurred and expectations shifted. She stopped short of claiming contracts, but she did say, when brand managers start smiling more than lovers, pay attention. Clips of that quote were everywhere within an hour. Reaction channels began dissecting every public appearance frame by frame. A red carpet exchange that once seemed flirtatious was now being analysed for hesitation. A joint interview that felt cute now looked slightly stiff to some viewers. And then came the leaked message. An anonymous account posted a screenshot allegedly showing a text from someone in a PR circle referencing the rollout phase. The authenticity wasn't verified. It could have been fake. It could have been edited. But that didn't matter. The phrase alone ignited chaos. Jaguar went back live to address it. She didn't confirm the screenshot. She didn't deny it. She said, "I told you this wasn't random." The internet melted down. Some fans began apologizing publicly for dismissing her initial claims. Others doubled down, accusing her of manipulating speculation without hard proof. But the most unsettling part was the silence from the people allegedly involved. No denial, no clarification, just continued quiet. Jaguar leaned into that silence. She said if her claims were baseless, they'd be shut down instantly. She argued that in an industry where reputations are protected aggressively, prolonged quiet can signal strategy rather than innocence. Then she pivoted again. She said the real tragedy isn't whether the relationship was planned. It's that audiences crave authenticity so desperately that they cling to any love story presented convincingly enough. She accused the industry of feeding fans curated fairy tales to maintain engagement metrics. And then she said something that felt almost personal. Somebody caught feelings in something that started as a fix. That line hit differently, because now the story wasn't just about manipulation. It was about potential emotional collateral damage. The idea that one person may have entered a strategic alignment while another entered believing it was forever. That possibility shifted sympathy across timelines. People began debating who would be hurt more if the illusion theory held weight. Some argued both could have been in on it initially. Others suggested power dynamics may have influenced who benefited more. Meanwhile, old interviews resurfaced where one party spoke about wanting peace and privacy. Fans contrasted those statements with the very public nature of the romance rollout. Jaguar continued pressing the theme of timing. She pointed out how endorsement deals aligned suspiciously well with peak romance coverage. She noted how certain awards show appearances amplified couple branding just as individual projects launched. Again, no signed contracts, just patterns. And patterns, when mapped publicly, create their own gravity. The chaos escalated when a popular blogger claimed they'd heard similar whispers months ago but were warned not to publish. That blogger didn't name Jaguar as the source. But the implication was clear. This conversation had been simmering behind the scenes. By now, hashtags were trending. Half of social media was screaming conspiracy. The other half was screaming calculated PR. But everyone was watching. Jaguar ended the second live with a warning that felt less dramatic and more weary. She said she doesn't hate anyone involved. She said she's tired of watching the public be manipulated into emotional investment without transparency. She claimed the machine thrives on distraction and that romance is its most profitable tool. Then she said the most chilling line yet. "You haven't even seen the part that proves it." And she logged off again. No clarification, no final statement, just escalation. Because if she truly has more, if there are actual insiders willing to speak publicly, if something concrete surfaces beyond patterns and speculation, then this story won't just be about illusion, it will be about exposure. And exposure, in an industry built on image, can be devastating. By the time Jaguar Wright returned for what would become her most explosive live yet, the internet was already in a frenzy. Hashtags were trending, reaction videos were multiplying by the hour. Fans were choosing sides like it was a championship fight. But Jaguar didn't come back loud. She came back calm. And that calm felt dangerous. She opened with one sentence, "I'm going to say this carefully," which in Jaguar's world means a storm is coming. She claimed she had been contacted again, not by fans, not by bloggers, by someone she described as close enough to know what was drafted before it was lived. That phrase alone made the comment section implode. She said the source didn't send screenshots this time. They sent context. A breakdown of conversations allegedly had months before the public ever knew there was a romance. According to Jaguar, there were early discussions about redirecting attention away from turbulence and towards something aspirational. She emphasized that she was not reading a script. She was reading between lines. Then she said something that shifted the tone from gossip to gravity. Do you know what it feels like to be cast as someone's redemption arc? That question landed heavy, because suddenly this wasn't just about strategy. It was about identity. Jaguar alleged that one party in this situation was presented to the public as a symbol of healing, stability, and protection. She claimed that narrative was carefully curated, that the public needed to see strength paired with softness, control paired with affection. She said the optics were too symmetrical to be accidental. And then she introduced a new twist. She alleged that there were disagreements behind the scenes about how long the storyline would run. That's when social media stopped joking, because if there were terms, that implies intent. She didn't claim to have a signed agreement in hand. She didn't say there was a legal document outlining dates, but she suggested there were verbal understandings, expectations, an understanding of when certain appearances would stop. She described alleged tension when one side wanted to extend the visibility and the other preferred to scale back. She implied that feelings complicated the arrangement, and that's when the emotional breakdown theory returned. Jaguar claimed at least one highly public moment of visible distress may have been genuine heartbreak layered on top of a narrative that was never meant to be permanent. She didn't say it was fake. She said it may have been unexpected. That distinction matters, because if something begins strategic but becomes emotional, the fallout becomes real. Clips of Jaguar's live began spreading before she even finished speaking. Fans were now re-examining every tear, every cryptic caption, every deleted post. Old quotes about peace and privacy resurfaced, contrasted with weeks of high-profile couple branding. And then came the confrontation angle. Jaguar alleged there was a heated conversation that never made headlines. She described raised voices, hurt feelings, accusations of being used. She stopped short of naming who said what, but she implied someone felt like a pawn in a larger image game. The chat exploded with speculation. Some viewers accused her of stretching assumptions into drama. Others argued that the pattern she described felt too aligned to dismiss. Then she dropped what might have been the most unsettling claim yet. She said the ending wasn't spontaneous. She alleged that the fade-out had already been mapped, that once certain milestones were reached, press cycles cooled, projects stabilized, the narrative would naturally quiet down. Not with scandal, not with betrayal, with distance, which is exactly what observers had started noticing. Appearances decreased, interactions slowed. The once loud romance softened into silence. Jaguar leaned back and said quietly, "You were supposed to move on without asking questions." That line felt surgical. Because in entertainment, audiences are trained to accept growing apart as closure, to respect privacy, to avoid digging. But Jaguar's entire thesis was that the audience deserves awareness when emotion is intertwined with marketing. She said she wasn't trying to destroy love stories, she was trying to dismantle illusions. Then came the social media chaos. A celebrity adjacent to the situation posted a cryptic tweet about people confusing perspective with proof. Fans interpreted it as a subtle clapback at Jaguar. Others said it was unrelated. But the timing poured gasoline on an already raging fire. A podcaster claimed they had heard whispers of similar concerns months ago, but didn't want to be that platform. Another influencer hinted at NDA culture silencing insiders. The narrative was no longer contained. Jaguar closed in on her final message with something that felt almost mournful. She said the real damage isn't the exposure of strategy, it's the erosion of trust. She argued that when audiences repeatedly discover that vulnerability may have been curated, they stop believing in authenticity altogether. And then she asked a final question that echoed long after the live ended. If love is part of the rollout, how do you know when it's real? She didn't wait for answers. She logged off. No dramatic music, no final mic drop, just silence. But that silence now feels louder than any statement, because whether Jaguar is right, partially right, or completely off base, one thing is undeniable. The perception has shifted. The fairy tale has an asterisk. Every future appearance will be viewed through suspicion. Every smile will be analysed. Every quiet period will be questioned. And in Hollywood, perception often matters more than truth. If this was a strategic alignment that evolved into something real, then someone likely got hurt. If it was purely strategic, then millions emotionally invested in a storyline crafted for optics. Either way, the innocence is gone. And once innocence is gone, it rarely returns. The machine keeps moving, but now the audience is watching differently. And that changes everything. If you thought this was just another celebrity rumor cycle, it's not. It's a case study in how narratives are built and how easily they can collapse. The aftershock has only just begun. The only question left is who breaks their silence next. Because in a story about illusion, the loudest reveal is usually the one that comes last. And if Jaguar's right about one thing, we haven't heard it yet. Stay ready. If you made it this far, then you already know. This wasn't just gossip, this was a crack in the glass. Jaguar Wright didn't just throw shade. She challenged the entire way we consume celebrity love stories. She questioned timing. She questioned optics. She questioned whether what we're sold as intimacy is sometimes strategy in disguise. And now the timeline will never look the same again. So I need to know where you stand. Do you believe this was calculated from the beginning? How do you think Jaguar is exposing uncomfortable truths the industry hopes stay buried? Or do you feel like this is another case of patterns being mistaken for proof? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. Not the safe answer, the real one. And don't just watch from the sidelines. Hit that like button if you believe audiences deserve transparency. Subscribe and turn on notifications because if someone involved finally responds, if receipts surface, if an insider decides to go public, you do not want to hear about it after everyone else. These stories don't fade quietly, they escalate, and when the next piece drops, it's going to hit harder than the first. Stay locked in.